All right, so ready to dive into a holiday classic.
Always.
This time, we're looking at A Christmas Carol. I'm sure everyone's at least a little familiar with the story,
Definitely a well-known one.
but even with familiar stories, sometimes when you really examine them, there's some really fascinating things you can find.
Yeah, you can uncover some hidden treasures.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like layers you've never noticed before.
And A Christmas Carol is really interesting because it's not just like a simple Christmas
Oh,
story.
yeah, there's so much going on.
It's like a ghost story and
Yeah.
social commentary.
A morality tale,
It's
too.
all wrapped up in this, heartwarming Christmas package.
Exactly. So we start off, right, it's Christmas Eve, and we meet the one and only Ebenezer Scrooge.
Ah, yes. The bah humbug guy.
The guy who, practically invented bah humbug. It's all about money, completely isolated, doesn't want anything to do with Christmas cheer.
Totally. And Dickens really goes all out right from the start to make Scrooge the opposite of the whole Christmas spirit.
Well, absolutely. And, it's really interesting how Dickens uses the setting to emphasize how isolated Scrooge is.
How so?
Well, it's Christmas Eve, right? A time when people are usually getting together with family and friends.
Yeah, usually lots of gatherings.
But Scrooge is all alone in his cold, dark house.
Doesn't want anything to do with anybody.
Yeah, he's rejecting every attempt at human connection.
And even his poor clerk, Bob Cratchit.
Oh, Bob Cratchit.
He's suffering because Scrooge is so stingy, won't even give him enough coal to stay warm.
It's awful. And it just highlights that theme of social inequality that Dickens is exploring.
Yeah, you really see that contrast.
The difference between Scrooge's wealth and the Cratchit family's poverty is just, right in your face.
So clearly, Scrooge needs, an intervention.
He definitely needs some help.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the ghosts come in.
The ghosts.
Starting with Dun Dun Dun, the ghost of his former business partner, Jacob Marley.
Okay, what always gets me about Marley's visit is that intense visual imagery.
The chains.
Yeah, those heavy chains he's dragging, forged from, his own greed and bad deeds.
Just heavy stuff.
Yeah, and it's such a strong symbol, right? It shows how our actions have consequences that can last even after we're gone.
Like he's saying, look, Scrooge, this could be you.
Exactly. And to really drive the point home, Marley tells Scrooge to get ready.
For more ghosts?
Yes. 3 more ghostly visitor.
It's like the spooky countdown, It makes you wonder what those ghostly encounters are going to be like.
Oh, definitely adds suspense. So who's first?
First up is the ghost of Christmas past. And this ghost, they take Scrooge on a journey back in time.
Back in time.
Yeah, they revisit important moments from his life. We see Scrooge as a young boy, all alone and neglected at boarding school.
Oh, that's sad.
It is. And I think that scene is important, because it gives us some insight into why Scrooge is so bitter in the present.
We start to see how his childhood experiences might made him who he is.
Exactly. And then we see him as a young apprentice, full of life, excited, working for this really jolly guy named Mr. Fezziwig.
Mr. Fezziwig. Sounds jolly.
It's such a stark contrast to the Scrooge we meet at the beginning, right?
Makes you think about change, what happens to us along the way? What choices lead us down different paths in life?
What happened to that joyful young man? Why did he turn into, Scrooge?
Right. It's like Dickens wants us to ask ourselves, what if I had made different choices?
Ooh, those what-if moments.
We all have them. I think that's part of what makes A Christmas Carol resonate with people even today.
Definitely. And then we get to maybe the saddest scene of all, Scrooge and his lost love, Belle.
Oh, Belle.
She breaks off their engagement, because she sees how obsessed he's become with money.
It's heartbreaking, isn't it? But you can see why she does it.
Yeah, her words are like this wake-up call for Scrooge, but he doesn't really get it at the time.
Well, not yet anyway.
So this first ghostly encounter leaves Scrooge pretty shaken. But the journey's just beginning. Next up is the ghost of Christmas present.
Sounds interesting.
And we'll dive into that encounter right after this.
And now we go from, the past to the present with the ghost of Christmas present. It's all about experiencing the joy of the holiday, right as it's happening.
Yeah, this ghost is like a total character.
Mm-hmm.
Jolly, boisterous.
Full of life.
Wants Scrooge to really savor every moment. And where better to start than with the Cratchit family?
Oh, this scene, it's always so touching to me, The Cratchits, they have so little, but they're so full of love as they get ready for their pretty meager Christmas dinner.
Makes you think about what really matters.
Yeah.
They might not have much, but their love for each other is, like, endless.
Right. It's like Dickens is showing us the true meaning of Christmas. It's about generosity and compassion.
Connection.
Exactly. And those things have nothing to do with money.
And then there's Tiny Tim.
Ah, Tiny Tim.
Such a sweet, innocent kid, full of optimism, even though he's, facing physical challenges.
Tiny Tim really embodies that vulnerability and the need for compassion. Dickens really knows how to tug at our heartstrings.
You can see it starting to affect Scrooge, too. He actually asks the ghost about Tiny Tim's future. Like he's genuinely concerned.
It's a change, right? A little crack in that icy exterior.
Yeah, a glimmer of empathy starting to peek through.
But the ghost of Christmas Present isn't done yet. He takes Scrooge to his nephew's Christmas party.
Fred? The nephew Scrooge totally brushed off earlier.
And he's still so full of Christmas spirit.
Welcoming everyone with open arms.
This party is like the opposite of Scrooge's lonely life right
It's
now.
all laughter, games, connection, all the stuff Scrooge has been missing out on.
And I think that contrast is so important. It's like Dickens is saying, look at all the joy you're missing.
I wonder if that hits home for Scrooge. Like, is he realizing what he's been pushing away?
I think so. And it's a message that's still relevant, In a world that's so focused on, like, individual success and money, it's easy to forget about community.
But then things take a bit of a turn, right?
Yeah, the mood shifts. As the day goes on, the ghost of Christmas Present, he starts to age.
Gets kind of weary, somber.
It's like a reminder that even when we're celebrating, there's always something darker lurking beneath the surface.
And then, before the ghost disappears, he reveals these two figures hidden under his robes.
Ignorance and want.
Such a creepy image. A warning about what happens when we ignore the suffering of others.
A reminder that ignorance and want have consequences for everyone.
You can tell Scrooge is shaken by this. He's realizing his actions have consequences.
Not just for him, but for others, too.
So as the ghost of Christmas Present fades away, it's obvious Scrooge's journey isn't over.
He still has one ghost to meet. The ghost of Christmas yet to come.
The most mysterious and terrifying of them all.
This ghost is shrouded in silence. Doesn't say a word.
That silence is almost scarier than anything,
I think it's deliberate. Like, the ghost of Christmas yet to come doesn't need words. It just embodies that cold, harsh reality of a future where Scrooge doesn't change.
A future without love or connection or even basic kindness.
Scrooge even begs the ghost to tell him whose death they're witnessing.
He needs to understand.
And when he sees it's his own neglected grave, it's like a punch to the gut.
Yeah, he's forced to face the legacy he's creating. A legacy of loneliness and greed.
And it's just empty, meaningless.
It's almost too much for him. He's desperate for another chance. You can really see how deeply this has affected him.
He's broken and ready for change.
But is it too late for him? So Scrooge is left there, right, thinking about this bleak future. But then he wakes up and it's Christmas morning.
What a relief. It's like a fresh start for him.
And you can just feel this wave of joy and gratitude washing over him, It's like he's a completely different person.
He is. It's the start of his transformation.
And he's ready to make things right.
He's eager to embrace that Christmas spirit he was fighting against.
Remember that huge turkey he wouldn't buy for the Cratchits?
Yeah.
He sends them an even bigger one, anonymously. And he even gives Bob Cratchit a raise.
It's so generous. And it's not just about the big gestures either.
Right.
Scrooge really takes the time to connect with people, wishes strangers a Merry Christmas.
Even goes to see his nephew, Fred.
It's like his actions have this ripple effect, spreading joy to everyone around him.
Yeah, like one act of kindness leads to another and another.
It's really beautiful.
Shows the power of generosity and kindness, right?
Absolutely. And what about Tiny Tim?
I was wondering about that.
Well, because of Scrooge, Tiny Tim doesn't die.
He lives.
Scrooge becomes like a second father to him, makes sure he gets the care he needs.
It's such a happy ending.
Yeah.
But it makes you think, A Christmas Carol. It's not just a simple story.
No, it's much deeper than that.
Dickens was making a statement about the social problems of his time.
He really was. By showing the contrast between the Cratchit family struggles and Scrooge's wealth.
It forces us to think about inequality and what it does to people.
And it's a story that's still relevant today.
Definitely.
We're still dealing with poverty and greed and, just the importance of human connection.
It's a timeless message.
Something everyone can relate to.
So after spending time with A Christmas Carol, what sticks with you? What resonates the most?
For me, it's the reminder that we can always change. It's never too late.
Scrooge really proves that.
Yeah. He shows us that compassion and generosity can change even the hardest heart. And it reminds us that we can all make a difference in the world.
That's a great takeaway. And it makes you think that Christmas spirit,
That generosity, kindness, connection.
yeah, it shouldn't be just for one day a year, right?
Exactly. It should be something we carry with us all year round.
See what kind of impact we can have on the world. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into A Christmas Carol. Keep those curious minds going, and we'll see you next time.